Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every person's life when they realize a simple but liberating truth. No one truly cares as much as you think they do. Not about your failures. Not about your fears. Not even about your dreams. People are occupied with their own battles, their own doubts, their own silent storms. And this is not something to resent, this is something to use. Because once you understand this truth, you unlock a power that few ever tap into, the freedom to focus entirely on yourself. Think about it. When you stop living to impress others, you begin living with intention. When you stop worrying about who approves, you finally approve of yourself. When you stop chasing applause, you start building discipline. And discipline is what shapes a life of purpose. Life becomes clearer when you shift your attention from the external world to the internal one. You cannot control the opinions, moods, or judgments of others. But you can control your effort, your habits, your reaction, and your character. These are the only things that truly belong to you. You can only control your own actions, and yet most of us spend an extraordinary amount of time and energy trying to control how others perceive us. From a young age, we are taught to seek approval, to fit in, to be liked and praised, as if someone else's opinion were the currency of our worth. But the truth is that no one can inhabit your mind, feel your intentions, or live your choices for you. Every thought, every decision, every moment of effort originates within you, and only you are responsible for how you respond to life. Trying to manage the perceptions of others is not just futile, it is a distraction from the one thing you can truly shape, yourself. People will judge, misunderstand, or even ignore you, but their reactions are reflections of their own lives, not measures of your value. The opinions of others are external, uncontrollable, and often fleeting, while your actions are permanent footprints on the path of your own existence. You cannot dictate how others interpret your words or actions, and you cannot predict the biases, fears, or experiences that color their judgments. What you can control, however, is the clarity of your intent, the integrity of your choices, and the consistency of your effort. When you act with honesty and purpose, your energy is not scattered chasing validation but focused on creating results that truly matter. Recognizing this shift is liberating because it releases you from the burden of constant worry about approval or criticism. Instead of crafting yourself to please others, you invest in your character, your skills, and your resilience. You measure success not by applause but by the alignment between your actions and your principles. When challenges arise, when obstacles appear, or when people dismiss your efforts, you do not crumble because your foundation is internal, not external. You respond with reason and determination, understanding that the only judgments that truly affect your progress are those you place upon yourself. In practical terms, controlling your actions means being deliberate with your time, conscious of your habits, and attentive to the influence you allow into your life. It means making choices based on rational thought, deliberate effort, and long-term vision rather than seeking the immediate comfort of approval. It is a constant practice of self-mastery, observing your impulses, refining your reactions, and prioritizing growth over recognition. By focusing on what you can control, you cultivate a sense of inner freedom, a clarity of purpose, and a resilience that is impervious to external noise. You understand that no insult, praise, or indifference from others can diminish the work you put into becoming your best self. Every action you take, every choice you make, is a declaration of sovereignty over your life. You act because it is right, because it aligns with your values, because it advances your journey, not because someone else will notice or approve. Over time, this focus on your own actions shapes a life of autonomy, strength, and meaning, where you are guided not by fleeting opinions but by enduring principles, and where the measure of your success is found within your own efforts rather than in the reflections of those around you. Self-discipline is one of the most powerful forces a person can cultivate, because it gives you control over your own life in a way that external approval never can. When we rely on praise, recognition, or validation from others, we give our power away. We make our motivation dependent on forces outside ourselves, forces we cannot control, and we tether our self-worth to opinions that can shift like the wind. External validation is fleeting. It changes with moods, circumstances, and biases that have nothing to do with who you are or what you are capable of. Relying on it is like trying to build a house on sand. The foundation is unstable, and the structure is vulnerable to collapse. Self-discipline, on the other hand, is internal, consistent, and enduring. It is a choice you make every day to act according to your principles and your long-term goals rather than the temporary desires or judgments of others. It is the ability to resist immediate gratification for a greater, more meaningful outcome. It is what allows you to persist when motivation fades, when excitement wanes, and when no one is watching. Discipline does not require applause or recognition. It does not need to be rewarded or acknowledged to have value. It is inherently self-sustaining because it comes from within. People who cultivate discipline understand that growth is a process measured in effort, repetition, and commitment, not in likes, compliments, or approval. They work quietly, consistently, and without expectation, knowing that the results will eventually manifest in ways that matter more than any temporary praise could. When challenges arise, discipline provides the stability to navigate them. While others may falter under criticism or doubt, a disciplined individual relies on their own framework, their own standards, and their own sense of responsibility. This internal strength creates resilience and a sense of control over life that external validation can never provide. Moreover, self-discipline shapes character. It refines judgment, builds patience, and strengthens resolve. It allows a person to prioritize long-term benefits over short-term satisfaction, to persevere through discomfort, and to make choices aligned with their deeper values rather than the shifting desires of the crowd. In contrast, dependence on external validation fosters inconsistency, insecurity, and distraction. It keeps you reactive instead of proactive, bending your actions to the preferences of others instead of following your own reasoned judgment. The more you practice self-discipline, the less you seek approval, and the freer you become. Each small act of control over your impulses, each commitment kept when no one is watching, is a declaration of independence from the need for external recognition. Over time, these acts accumulate, creating a life where your sense of achievement and fulfillment comes from your own effort, your own standards, and your own ability to endure, rather than from the fleeting judgment of others. In this way, self-discipline is not just stronger than external validation, it is the foundation for a life of freedom, purpose, and genuine strength. Life is filled with endless noise, opinions, advice, criticisms, expectations, and distractions that constantly pull at our attention. From the moment we wake, we are bombarded by the judgments of others, the chatter of social media, and the competing priorities of a world that seems determined to dictate how we should think, act, and feel. Most people allow this noise to control them, reacting to every comment, worrying about every slight, and striving to meet standards that are neither their own nor sustainable. Yet the truth is that much of this noise is beyond our control, and giving it power over us only leads to frustration, anxiety, and stagnation. The only path to clarity, strength, and progress is to detach from what you cannot control and focus entirely on what lies within your power. What lies within your power is simple but profound. Your actions, your choices, your attitude, and your effort. You cannot control how others perceive you, what they say about you, or how they behave. You cannot prevent the world from being chaotic, unfair, or unpredictable. But you can control how you respond to it. You can control your discipline, your decisions, your focus, and your resilience. When you focus on what is within your power, you stop wasting energy on circumstances that are irrelevant to your growth. Every hour spent fretting over opinions or outcomes you cannot influence is an hour stolen from your ability to improve, to act, and to shape your own life. Detaching from noise is not indifference, it is clarity. It is the recognition that the only meaningful domain is your own mind and actions. It is a deliberate choice to filter the endless barrage of information and influence, responding only to what matters and ignoring what does not. This focus allows you to build strength of character, cultivate skills, and pursue goals without the distraction of external pressures. It also fosters resilience. When challenges arise, and they inevitably will, you are less shaken by chaos or criticism, because your center of gravity is internal, not external. You measure success by your effort, your progress, and your alignment with your values, not by the fleeting reactions of the world around you. Practicing this detachment requires discipline and awareness. It requires the ability to notice when you are being drawn into distractions or anxieties over things beyond your control and to consciously redirect your attention to your own sphere of influence. It requires patience, persistence, and the courage to prioritize long-term growth over immediate reaction. The more consistently you focus on what is within your power, the more control you gain over your own life. You become a steady force in a turbulent world, moving forward with purpose, unaffected by the noise that overwhelms so many others. In time, this focus transforms your mind and your life, creating a clarity of purpose, an inner peace, and a capacity for action that no external disturbance can diminish. It allows you to live intentionally, to act decisively, and to cultivate a life of meaning entirely shaped by your own choices rather than by the endless, uncontrollable clamor of the world. Too often, we delay our progress because we wait for someone else to approve, validate, or authorize our actions. We seek permission from peers, mentors, society, or even from imagined standards that exist only in our minds. We hesitate to take risks, to pursue opportunities, or to express our potential because we fear judgment, criticism, or disapproval. But the moment you stop seeking permission, the moment you decide that your growth does not require the consent of others, you open the door to real freedom and transformation. Growth is a personal journey, and it can only be fueled by your own initiative. Waiting for external validation keeps you stagnant, tethered to the expectations of others rather than propelled by your own vision. Those who achieve greatness, who cultivate skill, strength, and wisdom, do so not because they were given permission, but because they acted despite the absence of it. The world rarely provides guarantees, and opportunities rarely come wrapped in explicit consent. The most meaningful progress happens when you take ownership of your life, when you accept that the only authority required for your actions is your own. To stop seeking permission is to embrace responsibility for yourself fully. It is to recognize that you are capable of defining your own standards, setting your own goals, and measuring your own success. You no longer wait for someone else's approval to begin a project, speak your truth, or pursue mastery. Instead, you act, guided by reason, determination, and a commitment to growth. This does not mean acting recklessly. It means acting with intention, using your judgment, and prioritizing action over hesitation. The longer you wait for permission, the more you lose precious time and potential. Life is not paused for your uncertainty or for the consent of others. It moves forward relentlessly, and every moment spent waiting is a moment of opportunity lost. Growth requires courage, the courage to take the first step, even when the path is unclear and the support is absent. It requires perseverance, the willingness to continue even when recognition is delayed or non-existent. And it requires trust, the confidence that your effort, consistency, and self-discipline will yield results over time. When you stop seeking permission, you begin to live according to your own standards rather than the fluctuating expectations of others. You stop bending to societal pressures and start aligning your actions with your principles and your potential. You discover that your ability to grow is not contingent on external approval but on your willingness to act, to learn, and to persist. Each step taken without waiting for consent is a declaration of independence, a confirmation that your life is yours to shape. Over time, this mindset compounds, creating momentum that cannot be halted by hesitation, fear, or disapproval. Your decisions become guided by your judgment, your confidence grows, and your capacity to achieve your goals expands exponentially. Growth begins when you claim authority over your own life, realizing that no one else can grant it, and that waiting for permission only delays the person you are capable of becoming.